Hi, I'm Allison Hall, and I'm here with Senator Eric Oemig of the 45th Legislative District. Senator, recently the legislature voted to suspend Initiative 960. Can you tell us a little bit about what I-960 is, some of the history or background?
Initiative 960 was passed by the people 2 years ago, and basically what it says is that for the legislature to raise taxes, that it requires a supermajority vote or 2/3 vote in both chambers, or a simple majority plus a authorizing vote of the people. And it's actually kind of ironic because I-960 itself only passed with a bare majority of about 51% of the voters. And in so doing, what they said was, basically that simple majority said what we'd like to do is cede our power over to a small minority, to a 1/3 minority, about how we do our budgets. And on its face, it seems unconstitutional, but it does represent a strong sentiment and message from the people that we want to honor.
So why is the legislature looking at suspending I-960 to close the $2.8 billion budget deficit?
Well, there's really two things at work here. First is a $12 billion problem that we've had this biennium. So in this 2-year budget cycle, $12 billion. In the first year, we cut $9 billion. And in the second year, we've got $3 more billion to go. And we really just don't think we can get there on cuts alone. The second part is really I-960 is, that 2/3 requirement for a tax increase is extremely limiting when we're talking about even something as simple as closing a corporate tax loophole for an out-of-state company that puts us at a disadvantage. And there's a lot of things that we're going to need to do in terms of trying to do some revenue enhancements. And I appreciate the sentiment of constituents who come to my office and say, please, please raise my taxes. Don't cut some of these important services. Please don't gut public schools. The reality is I don't want to raise I don't want to raise their taxes. The vast majority of Washington state citizens already pay too much tax. I guess the problem is we don't have a fair and equitable tax system. We have one of the most, we have the most regressive tax system in the country. And what this means is some people really aren't paying their fair share. And I'd like to fix that. I'd like to close loopholes. Not only do we tax people unfairly, we tax business unfairly. Our small businesses, take the brunt. We have a regressive tax system on our businesses. And so, for the flexibility we need to try and fix some of these tax policies, won't get it all this year, but for some of the incremental steps, closing some loopholes, we have tax preferences, and then we have preferences layered on top of preferences. We have some businesses who are part of an industry who get a tax preference, and then we have a subcategory that get another preference on top of that. So that's the other reason why we're really looking at, why we're voting to suspend, why I voted to suspend I-960.
Is voting to suspend I-960 voting against the will of the people?
When the people vote on initiatives, they're making law. And circumstances and I guess the weight of circumstance and the passage of time change the will of the people. They respond to those things. And I actually thought Initiative 1033, which was kind of an I-960 Part 2, where it really went after the revenue side of things and said, it greatly capped our ability to collect revenue. That went down in flames at the polling, or at the ballot box. And I think that's actually a more accurate measure of the will of the people. But Allison, last year, I voted to suspend 2 initiatives, not 1, 2. I-728 and I-732. These are reducing class size and keeping teacher pay consistent with the rate of inflation. And I had folks in last year saying, why would you vote against the will of the people? And I did it to try and balance a $9 billion problem. And this year, I got $3 more billion I got to fix, and I can't get there on cuts alone. So I'm suspending an initiative to give me the flexibility to close loopholes.
What else is the legislature doing to close the budget shortfall?
Well, we're definitely cutting. We're putting cuts on top of cuts. We did pay cuts and agency cuts, tightening government across the board, and this year we did another round of that. We're hitting people's paychecks. We're doing forced furloughs. We're limiting.
Is that with the state government you're
Yes.
referring to?
Yeah, specifically with employees at the state. And in the Senate, as an example, we're at staffing levels 20% below where we were 30 years ago. And we're just realizing we have to do, we have to take these cuts. And they're not pleasant, they're not great for some of the service delivery, but then there's, when we're directly hitting folks with safety and protection with criminal justice, we're really carving those out and holding those harmless and saying, probably better not to start kicking people out of jails or nursing homes. The cost of that is too high. The quality of life in Washington State would be far too impacted. So we've got more cuts, we've got more optimizations going on, and then, as I mentioned, we also are looking at closing loopholes and putting kinds of taxes on things like pollution or plastic or other sins like smoking, and as areas that we think, there's a lot of externalities out there, and we just want to kind of price them into the business model.
Thank you. If you would like to send your thoughts to Senator Oemig, please use the contact at the bottom of your screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.